Kia ora everyone, my name's ALICIA Walsh and this is all about me and my story. In this quick video I'm going to explain to you guys how I went from being homeless and sleeping in a car 5 years ago to becoming a successful online entrepreneur earning 6 or 7 figures a year. So a little bit about me and about my background. I'm 26 years old and I live in Brisbane, Australia. I've been here for the last 6 years. I'm married and have 2 children. I'm originally from Hamilton, New Zealand. Grew up in Melville on Dermont Street in between Beta and Ehrlich. And I actually lived in Tikwiti for a few years before I moved over here to Australia after my mum passed away. I've been a full-time online hustler since March of 2015, and when I first came online and started online, I had no computer skills. The only thing that I really knew how to do online was just do, Facebook posting, and the only other stuff I knew how to do was just, how to use Microsoft Word and Notepad to be able to type up little documents and notes and stuff like that. Aside from that, I still don't know to this day, I still don't know how to use Excel spreadsheets. I don't even know how to edit my videos or anything like that. I don't know, a lot of stuff online I don't know. But, I did what I had to do to be able to get in and learn, what I had to learn to be able to become independent and be my own boss and not have to go to a job every day. 5 years ago, we were actually homeless and sleeping in our car. It was the worst situation I've ever been in and been through in my life. Thanks to what I do online, I was actually able to retire my husband from a 9-to-5 job 2 years ago, so he's been at home with me full time ever since then. Another thing that a lot of people don't actually know about me is that I have an eye condition. It's a reason why I wear my glasses around a lot, even at night time. And my eye condition is called keratoconus, and it's a condition where the actual shape of your eyeballs are shaped differently to how a normal person's would be. So most people's eyeballs are shaped round like a golf ball, whereas mine are pointy at the front. So mine are a little bit like a rugby ball, kind of curved on the ends. And as I get older, the actual front of my eyeballs where I see out of, they will become pointier and pointier, meaning that I will get blinder and blinder. Now, a lot of people say that I should wear glasses or contact lenses, but what they don't actually realize is that that doesn't actually help my eye condition. My eye condition isn't anything to do with focusing or anything like that. It's the actual structure and shape of my eyeball. So the only way to actually correct and fix the eye condition that I have is to actually have a deceased person's corneas taken off of their eyeballs and transplanted over mine. And that's, pretty much the only way to fix it. Another thing about me as well is I don't drive, mainly because of my eye condition. I also have a fear of trucks, but I don't ever let that stop me. For me, in life, I don't take excuses. So if I ever have to be somewhere, if I need to go and do a presentation, if I have to be interstate, if I have to be overseas somewhere, even though I don't drive, I will do whatever it takes. I will sacrifice whatever I have to sacrifice to get to where I need to be at a particular time. So if that means that I have to catch a taxi, I have to go on a train, I have to catch a bus, I have to walk, I have to go jump on a plane or whatever it is, I will do whatever I need to do to be able to be successful in life. Now, this is my husband Joseph, so I'm just going to quickly explain to you guys a little bit about my family. So my husband Joseph, we met back in 2008, and I actually met him through one of my old high school friends who was his baby sister. And, we pretty much hit it off then, and we have been together ever since. We got married in 2010. We have been happily married ever since, so celebrating this year our 7th wedding anniversary, which was only a couple of weeks ago. And the cool thing about it is I love having my husband at home retired with me. He's no longer having to stress out, and worry about going to work every day. He doesn't have to worry about having that burden of paying all the bills and stuff like that on his shoulders. And we really get to enjoy what we want to do. And he also gets to focus on what he wants to do as well. My husband is a hardcore gamer. He has learned since I have had him at home and retired. He's learned how to modify and jailbreak PlayStations and other gaming consoles, how to jailbreak and modify phones and stuff like that. He's even gotten as far as learning how to program and build his own coding and stuff like that for software. So it's been really, really cool watching his journey as well, because he doesn't have to go to work every day. He can learn what he wants to do, and he can also make an income by learning what he wants to learn and be able to put into practice. So he actually runs his own little business, um, you know, doing PlayStations and stuff like that, and he actually makes a good income from that. And the beauty of it is, because I came online, I was actually able to teach him the skills that I know, so then that way he could set up all of his own websites and stuff like that, just so that it makes it easier for him to be able to interact with his customers. He shipped consoles and stuff like that all the way over to America. I think the furthest one he's ever posted actually went out to Canada. So there's a lot of cool things that he does, and I just really enjoy having him at home. He helps me a lot with the kids whenever I'm busy online doing presentations, or if I'm away at business meetings and conferences, or doing presentations interstate somewhere. He is always at home holding it down for our family. So he's here with the kids. He'll help me to take them through their homework every day after school. He will drop them off and pick them up from school if they need to be dropped or picked up. He'll look after them when they're sick. My husband is kind of like the mummy in the house to our babies, and I'm really, really appreciative of that. When I retired him, he could have made the choice, to continue to keep working, but no, he wanted to be home with his babies, because, his babies are his world. They are his life. And he just wanted to be here for his family 100%. So I'm really, really happy that I was able to retire him 2 years ago. And we just love and enjoy, having that freedom of being able to enjoy our life and do what we want to do. These here are our two babies, our two rat bags. So this over here is our son Colorado. He's 8 years old, very intelligent, and he's got a very entrepreneurial sort of mindset, kind of like how mine is. And this is our daughter Candace. She's 5. Our baby here, she was born here in Australia. I had her when we were living in Darwin. She enjoys singing and dancing, and she's very, very cheeky, which isn't a really good thing for her mum and dad. But moving on. A little bit about my old 9 to 5 working life. This was what my life used to be like when I was living back in New Zealand, and I used to work a 9 to 5 job. I was a baker. Okay, so I first got my foot in the door into the bakery industry when one of my aunties was actually a cleaner at a new bakery in town. And I used to go in after school and stuff like that, and on the weekends, and I would wait for her because she used to actually teach me raranga. So she used to teach me how to weave with harakeke, with flax and stuff like that. So that was what I used to do for pocket money when I was younger, when I was about 11 or 12 years old, before I started high school. I would weave ketes and flowers and stuff like that, and I would sell them. That was back in the days when we had Bebo, if anyone can remember what Bebo is, and MySpace. And that was how I used to sell them. A lot of my school teachers would actually buy backpacks and stuff like that off me. So that was how I used to make, a bit of pocket money before I started working a job. Now, I got my foot in the door one day when the bakery people were a little bit short-staffed, and they needed someone to help them a little bit at home. So what happened was they were understaffed that day. Actually, they were understaffed all week because one of their workers had come down sick and couldn't work. And they didn't have anybody else to fill in for that worker. And what had happened was, because my old bosses were working, pretty much all day and into the night trying to cover for that worker, the washing was piling up at home. They didn't get time to do their cleaning or wash the dishes or anything like that. And so they asked me if I'd like to earn a little bit of pocket money. And I said to them, yeah, I'd love to. So they said, oh, would you, clean our house? We trust you, you've been sitting here in the bakery for a little bit. And, you haven't, ever taken anything or touched anything that you weren't supposed to. You've just sat here and watched quietly. And my auntie had told them about how my mum passed away when I was younger, and how, my dad was raising us and how things were hard at home. And I think they just genuinely wanted, to help. They were really good people. And so, one of them took me up to their house, gave me the house keys, and I walked into their house. It was like messy as. I, started doing their washing, and I was really, really lucky they actually had a dryer. They had a whole week's worth of aprons from the bakery, and they had hats from the bakery because you got to wear a baker's hat. And they had all their own work clothes and all of their, sets of pajamas and stuff like that, that hadn't been washed. And so I walked into their house. The washing was the first thing I started on, but the clothesline filled up pretty quickly. And I got to their house at about maybe 10 a.m. in the morning. And yeah, I started doing the washing and all that. And, while the washing's, going through the wash, I went through and I vacuumed up their house and dusted around and did the dishes and stuff like that. And while they were actually, while I was waiting for the washing, because, there was a few loads, I think I had to do about 4 or 5 loads of washing. While I was waiting in between the different loads to go through, I wasn't supposed to. They only told me to clean up inside. But because I, had to learn from a young age how to cook, how to clean, how to look after a family because my mum died, I knew how to do a lot of stuff around the house at the age of about 12. So I went into their garage because they had left the house keys with me and the garage key. And I actually went into their garage, I pulled the lawnmower out, and I actually mowed their lawns. I tidied up their gardens and stuff like that, and put all of their stuff on a big rubbish heap that they had out the back of their house. And so when I had rung back to the bakery, they had a home phone there. I rung back down to the bakery and I said, look, I finished all your housework and stuff. I've hung out the washing that I could hang out. The rest of it is, on the clothes horse because they had a clothes horse inside the house, and I had put that out the back as well. I said the rest is on the clothes horse, and I've got some in the dryer. There might still be one load that you'll need to put in the dryer when you guys get home. So, I pretty much had done all of that, done the outside, the inside, everything was spotless. I even made their beds. They had not made their bed for a week. I made their beds, and yeah, it was just cool to be able to clean up their house, and I didn't really know how much I was going to get. They didn't say to me, oh, we're going to give you $20, we're going to give you $50. I pretty much just did it because I was bored, and I just wanted to earn some extra pocket money, however much that pocket money was. So my old bosses came to pick me up. One of them stayed at the shop, one of them came to pick me up, and when he came to pick me up, he rolled up the driveway and I was waiting outside. I had locked the door behind me while I was waiting for him at the end of the driveway. And he got out of the car, he looked at the lawns, he looked at the gardens, then he unlocked the house, he went inside, he could see that the whole house was clean, and instead of taking me straight back down to the bakery, he rang his wife, which was my old boss Tanya, down at the bakery, and they're talking their language. I didn't quite understand it. I think they speak Vietnamese. And, they're having this full-on conversation on the phone, and I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if they were having an argument or what because I couldn't understand them. We ended up jumping back in the car. He locked the house up, and we went back down to the bakery. And when I got back down to the bakery, I was so shocked. My old boss, Tanya, his wife, put $200 in my hands and said, thank you so much for cleaning our home. We've been flat tack here in the bakery. Would you like, a job after school for a couple of days a week? Just, helping us to put the drinks in the fridge and clean the cabinets and the pie warmer and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'd love to. And they said, and we'll pay you cash in hand at the end of every day. And so I was so happy. I actually cried when they gave me that $200. And they said, why are you crying for? And they said, oh, this is going to help my dad so much. We really struggle at home. And I'm just going to be happy to be able to take this money home to my dad. And, we can have a nice dinner or something like that. And, that really, must have warmed my old boss's hearts. They mustn't have realised how much we were really struggling at home. And, yeah, I went straight home and I took that money home to my dad, and I was just really, really happy. And they said to me, come in tomorrow at 3 p.m. You can start your job then. And so that was pretty much how I got my foot in the door at the bakery. I would work, after school, and I would take that money home to my dad. I worked about 3 or 4 hours after school, usually from about 3:30 to about 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I worked around my school hours, and on the weekends right up until I was about 17, which was when I left school. I started a baker's apprenticeship at the age of 15. So my old bosses pretty much said to me, look, we're willing to offer you an apprenticeship. We understand that, you don't really have any qualifications or anything like that, and you don't know what you're going to do when you leave school. And so I took the opportunity. I knew that I was, going to take a pay cut. 15 is, pretty much a legal age that you can start working in New Zealand. And I knew that I was going to take a big pay cut in doing that. But the way I saw it was I was going to come out of it with a qualification that was going to see me through the future. So I, made the conscious decision to do that. So I worked 6 days a week, Monday through to Saturday, and I only ever had Sundays off. When I was still at school, I would work from 3:30 a.m. in the morning. Okay, I would walk from my house over to my job. I started at 3:30 in the morning. Okay, and then I would finish at about 7:30 in the morning. That was when I'd finish putting all of the bread and donuts and stuff like that out and getting the first couple of lots of pastry put through the sheet roller. And that would give me about half an hour to be able to put my uniform on and stuff and get ready to head to school. So, I would pretty much walk out at 8 a.m. in the morning, go to school, finish school at 3, walk home from, not walk home, walk back to work from school. And I would always leave a spare bag at my job that would have a spare change of working clothes. And in the morning when I went in, it would have a spare change of my uniform. And I would work until about 8 p.m. at night. So even though I was working, and I was going to school, so I was going to school, a full school day, and I was still working 7 to 8 hours a day during the week. It's pretty much like, a full-time job, and then I would work, full-time on the Saturday. So most weekends and holidays, I would, spend a minimum of 15 hours a day in the bakery on the days that I did actually work. I didn't like my job. I enjoyed baking for people, but the reason why I didn't like my job was because it was very physical. I would often come home and I'd have, aches and pains and a sore back. I have an old back injury from when I was a child, but I did what I had to do. I grit through that pain, and I just had to just keep going. I'd come home with super sore ankles and feet every night, and I would be absolutely exhausted. The sad thing about it was, when I moved out of my dad's place and into our own house with my husband and we had our son, I was having to worry about all these different bills, the rent, the power, the bloody phone bill, the internet, putting petrol in the car, having a warrant on the car and a rego and tyres and shopping. Oh, it was just, I don't miss it, to be honest with you. I don't miss it at all. I would literally be broke the day after payday. I would get paid, and then that night, I would sit down at the table, stressed out as, worrying about, oh fuck, what can I afford this week? I can put 20 bucks on this, 10 bucks on this, 50 bucks on this. And it was like that every week. And then, the APs had come out, the rent had come out, and I would only ever be left with enough just to put some food in the cupboards, enough to get us through to the next payday, if that, and enough to put a bit of petrol in the car. Like, we were always running around on E. Always running around on E all the time. Like, this sounds like so embarrassing, but, this is what we had to do when we were working 9 to 5 jobs. Me and my husband would be, sitting on E, and, we would go down to the Shell petrol station in Te Kuiti. I don't know if it's still there or not. Late at night, maybe about 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m. when nobody's there, and we would put $5 gas in the car. $5 gas. That was how broke we were. And the reason why we would go down there that late is because we knew that we didn't have to wait in line behind anyone, or, be waiting and someone's behind us and, here, $5. How shameful is that? That was how my life used to be. I would bring home leftovers from work, things at home. We did have some food, but, we didn't have like a lot of fruit and veggies and stuff like that. It was really, really suck. When I used to do the shopping once a week, I would have to make a strict list. And you know what? I was so strict with my shopping and my budgeting. My son had to go to daycare in Kohanga 5 days a week. I would count how many apples I would buy my son. I had to count how many apples, so I'd pick small apples and I would count 5 apples because that's how many days out of the week I needed to be able to put an apple in his lunchbox. 5 apples, 5 oranges. I would buy the marked down meat or the really cheap cuts of meat. I would have to on a Sunday, on my only day off. Most of that day was spent catching up on things that we couldn't do through the week, like the cleaning, getting all of our washing dry. Back home in New Zealand, it rains a lot. The weather is cold. It's hard to get your guys' clothes dry. And because, we were out most of the day, our fire wasn't going at home to get our clothes dry. So, we usually on the weekend, on a Sunday when we'd have a day off, we would shoot through to Otahonga to the big dryers out at the camper van park or the camping ground. I can't remember exactly what it was called, on the back road. And we would spend half the day there trying to get our washing dry. How pathetic is that? Wasting half of your day off just trying to get the clothes dry. Then we would have to do our lawns, our gardens. We would have to go pay the bills, do the shopping. And, I would then spend whatever time through the rest of the day that I had left preparing meals for the rest of the week. I didn't get home from work until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So I had to make sure that my husband had something to eat when he finished work, when he got home. I'm not going to get home at, 8:30 and he's already in bed. He hasn't eaten yet. I had to make sure that my husband had some food at home for him when he finished mahi. So that was what I used to do. I used to prepare meals, and all he would need to do when he got home was put something in the microwave or put it in the oven and turn it on, and he had dinner. And that was just really, really suck. Like, that was how our life used to be. I would have to plan everything. And whatever little time I did actually get with my husband and my son, we would be that broke. Like, I couldn't even take my son to the movies. We used to live on Bain Street in Te Kuiti, if anyone knows where that is. And I could only really take my son to the playground over at St. Joseph's School. That was his fun thing. Going to the frickin' playground or going to Redwood Park. Like, man, I couldn't take my son to the movies. I couldn't take him out to like Lollipops, Playland or Chipmunks or anything in Hamilton. We just couldn't afford it. And you want to know what the saddest thing is? The saddest memory of, having my son grow up is usually on a Saturday or a Sunday, the ice cream truck would go past our house, and we were that broke. Like, I couldn't even afford to get my son a $3 ice cream. He would go, "Mummy, mummy, ice cream." He'd hear the ice cream truck come past, and like, I couldn't even get my son an ice cream. And I'm sorry if I get emotional about that, but how pathetic is that? And a $3 ice cream I couldn't even afford to get my son. Man, thinking back to what my life used to be like, it was horrible. I was just so sick of struggling every single week. Getting paid, being broke the day after payday, having to scrimp and scrounge every bloody where that I could to try and keep our heads above water. And, I had no time with my husband and with my son. It was just, every week it was like that. It was pretty much eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep, work every day. Week after week after week, month after month after month. And nothing changed. Nothing changed. Man, what a horrible... when I think back to it, guys, honestly, man, I can't believe how restricted my life used to be. I can't believe how isolating it was and how stressful it was. It was so stressful, like every day, you're just worrying. And I remember I would be lying in bed at night, worrying, just worrying. How am I going to pay this bill? The rego's due soon. The car's up for a warrant. What if we have to get stuff fixed on the car? Like, it was just a constant worry every single day, and I would just toss and turn at night, worrying about shit that you shouldn't even have to worry about these days. Bills and food and keeping a roof over your head. Those are the basic necessities of life. But that was what life used to be like. It was like I was just surviving. I wasn't really living my life. I was just in an existence. I was just surviving, trying to scrape my ass along every week just to make it to the next payday. And the day before payday, we would be lucky if we would have some milk and some bread in the cupboards and in the fridge at home. And I would often come home from work the day before payday. The cupboards are empty. There's no meat in the freezer. Everything's pretty much cleared out. My son is down to like his last little school things for the week. The last muesli bar, the last apple, the last orange, the last sandwich. And I would literally, the day before payday, have jam and peanut butter on toast and a cup of tea for dinner. That was my dinner. That was what my dinner used to be. Toast and a cup of tea. That was my dinner. Now, if someone tried to give me that for dinner, I was like, nah, no way. I'm having a steak, I'm having this, I'm having that. But that was what life used to be like. I would have to think of 100 ways to cook sausages and mince because that was the only meat that, we could afford. Or, buy the cheap-ass cuts of chicken, like the chicken wings. We wouldn't even be able to get chicken drums or anything like that, or chicken breast, like good cuts of chicken. We wouldn't even be able to have steak, man. Like, I get steak whenever I want now, but that was how suck, my life used to be like. I hate to think back, to what it would still be like if I was still doing the same thing every single day. So back in 2011, we decided to make the move to Australia for a better life and more opportunities for our babies. So my husband actually left in July of 2011, 2 months before I moved across. I needed to make sure that our home was all packed up, everything was finalised before me and my son left. And when my husband left to go here to Australia, I didn't even know that I was pregnant at the time that he left. And I didn't actually find out until about 3 weeks later. And when I actually arrived here to Australia with my son, Colorado, I was 11 weeks pregnant with our daughter Candace. And this is actually a real picture of my son Colorado on the day that we flew out from New Zealand. This is us sitting in a plane on the tarmac at Auckland Airport, okay, getting ready to fly over here to Australia. So when we first originally moved here to Australia, we actually moved to Darwin. A lot of people say to us, why the hell did you move to Darwin? A lot of people are like, why don't you move to Melbourne or Sydney or Perth or Brisbane? The reason why is because we knew that up in Darwin, even though it was a remote area, there was always work going. There was always some sort of work there. And so we made the move there to Darwin, and this is another picture of our plane landing in Sydney. Now, when you fly from New Zealand to Darwin, you can never ever get a direct flight. Usually you've got to catch a connecting flight in Brisbane or Melbourne or Sydney. And so this was our flight touching down in Sydney in the afternoon, and that was where we transferred onto another plane to go to Darwin. When we moved to Darwin, we were staying with distant family, and we were very, very grateful to be staying with them, but we didn't know at the time that they actually had drug and alcohol problems. And, for us, that was like a biggie. When I got there, how you see people, on the outside, you think to yourself, oh, this family's going to be all good. They're good whānau. I've met them. But it's a completely different thing to actually live with them. So, when I was living with them, I would often just lock myself in my room all day with my son Colorado, or I would go down the road to the park, take him away from the house somewhere because, if they were at home, it was always smoking and drinking every day. And I wanted to try and keep my son away from that and my daughter away from that as much as possible. I so badly wanted to get out of that house. Now, back in April of 2017, which was this year, we actually travelled back to Darwin 5 years to the day that we were actually homeless in our car. And I went back to that very house that we were actually in when we moved to Darwin. Thankfully, at the time, nobody was actually living in there. It was actually being put up for rent. And I was actually able to do a video, which you guys will actually find inside the ALICIA story section, inside my experiences side, in this, info bot. What it was like, living there. And we had no other close family and friends around for support. You know, a lot of people are lucky, you know, they've got their mum there or their dad, or, you know, they might have a brother or sister or cousin. I didn't have any of that. When we moved to Darwin, we did have one of my second cousins. He was actually living in Darwin at the time with his wife and their two babies, or their baby at the time. I think Makere was actually hapu with another child at the time. And they moved away from Darwin about, I say, a couple of months after we actually, you know, were living in Darwin. So they moved away here to Queensland to find better work. And after they moved, I didn't have any close friends or family. And because I was at home all day while Joseph was at work, I didn't really get any time to make friends. So it was only just ever me in Colorado and my, you know, puku, Candace. And I had my daughter Candace back in March of 2012. And 6 months later, on the 19th of April 2012, boom, we were homeless and sleeping in our car. So we went pretty much overnight from having a roof over our head, a bed to sleep in every night, to having absolutely nothing. We had absolutely nothing but the clothes on our backs, the car that we were sleeping in, not even $1 to our name. And this is the very car park that we were actually sleeping in when we were homeless. You know, and the reason why we went and slept in that car park was because it felt to us like the safest place in town. We didn't want to go and park somewhere in the open and sleep in our car with our two babies and, you know, be afraid of getting robbed or mugged or anything like that. There's a lot of homelessness and violence and stuff like that that happens up in certain areas in Darwin, and we didn't want anything to happen to us or to our kids. So it was a real panicky situation. Um, we ended up sleeping in this car park for the first few nights that we were there. We went and slept near the beach and stuff like that. And that was the main reason why we slept in this car park. And I'm sorry if I'm pausing. It's just really hard not to get emotional about this, because it's just such a helpless feeling. Um, you know, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, you know, to have to go through something like that. It's really hard. It's really hard. It's really depressing. It's really embarrassing and isolating, you know, and because we didn't have any family or anything like that around, it was just so hard at the time. Um, you know, my husband still had his job, but we were broke, and because we weren't, you know, citizens here in Australia, we weren't entitled to any help. So, you know, I went into Centrelink, I went into Child Services, I went into the Housing Corporation, and like it was just so hard because every time I would go in and ask for help, I would be bawling my eyes out saying, please, can you help us? We need somewhere to stay. And doors would just get slammed in our face and nobody could help us because, you know, of our residency status. And that was really sad that we didn't have any sort of safety net to fall back on. And when that happened, our babies, you know, Colorado had only just turned 3. We were homeless, made homeless on the 19th of April. 2012, and my son's birthday was on the 17th of April, 2 days before, you know, we were actually homeless. My daughter Candace was only 3 weeks old. It was just, it was just horrible, absolutely horrible. I remember, you know, sitting in that car, and the worstest feeling out of it all was that I felt like I had failed my kids. That was the worstest thing that I ever had to go through. I wouldn't wish that feeling upon anyone. You know, when you have to look down at your kids and they don't even have a bed to sleep in. My babies were sleeping in car seats. My babies were sleeping in car seats. You know, they didn't have a bed. They didn't even have their own toys. They didn't have anything. All that we had was each other. But having to look down at my kids and felt, you know, like a failure, I felt like, you know, a piece of chewing gum on the bottom of someone's shoes. I just felt useless. I felt worthless. And you know, I actually contemplated some days even giving my kids up so that they could have a better life because I couldn't give it to them. And that was how hard, you know, it was. It just seemed like I was in this big, big black hole and that nothing was going to get any better. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then one night something hit me and I really woke up. And it all started with one decision. So after a few days of sleeping in our car and just sleeping rough, in car parks and, places on the side of the road, one night I was up really late and I remember I had just finished breastfeeding my daughter Candace and because of the humidity up in Darwin, they get a lot of mosquitoes and stuff during the wet season and I was like literally bitten from head to toe from midges. They're like sandflies and I promise you if you ever get to meet me one day, ask me to show you the scars that I have because I've actually got scars all over my arms, all over my legs from those mosquito bites when we were homeless. We had the windows down. My babies were even getting bitten, and it was just a really hard situation. So I was sitting there and I was, sobbing to myself, thinking, woe is me, fuck my life, and there were times, at night where I just felt like ending it all, just like slitting my wrists, opening myself up and just ending it all, so then that way my babies didn't have to suffer anymore, they could have better parents or a better mum. And, in a split second, as I was sitting there, something just boom, it just hit me flat in the face. And I realized, in that moment, that if, we were going to get out of the situation that we were in at the time, that I couldn't rely on anybody to help me. I couldn't rely on my family. I couldn't rely on my friends. I couldn't rely on God. I couldn't rely on the government. I had to help myself. And so I quickly said a quick karakia. I said a prayer to myself and I said, God, if there's something, that I'm supposed to do with my life, if I have a bigger purpose, and, this is some sort of a hurdle or some sort of a challenge, and you're trying to tell me something, then, I'm listening. I don't want to be in this situation. I don't want my kids to suffer. I don't want my family to suffer. I don't want to be starving. I don't want to be sleeping in the car anymore. I want out. And that was, in that moment, I truly realized that only I and I alone had the power to get us out of the situation that we were in, and only I and I alone could change my life. And that was the biggest wake up call that I ever got. It was pretty much like a buff, like a slap in the face, pretty much like a punch in the face, or like something bowled me over. And the day after that happened, when something switched in my mind, great things actually started to happen. Once I had made that decision to, get out of the rut and get out of the situation that we were in. So in the following days after that happened, the next morning we woke up and we actually got found by one of the church leaders who had come into the church early in the morning to do a lesson or something like that. And they had organised emergency accommodation for us that night at their son-in-law's house. 2 days later, we had got tickets, airline tickets sorted for me and the kids to fly to stay with our family, another family, interstate in New South Wales. We were really scared at the time that not having a proper housing situation and sleeping in the car, that child services were going to take our kids away from us. And that was really, really scary. I didn't want my babies, getting taken off us or anything like that. I really didn't want to be separated from them. And, literally that day that, I flew out from Darwin to New South Wales and said goodbye to my husband had actually secured a new concreting job, and he had got that lined up here in Brisbane. He had a cousin that run a concrete plant in Virginia, here in Brisbane, that was looking for workers. He was sick of workers always coming in and, quitting the day after because it was too hard. But my husband was determined to make a fresh start for us. Our original plan was, we were going to pretty much from, that time onwards, go and try and find somewhere at a camping ground where we could park up and get a tent and live at the camping ground until we had enough funds together to be able to secure bond and 2 weeks rent in advance for a house up in Darwin. But as soon as he got offered that job, I just said to him, babe, you should take it. And he pretty much handed in his 7 days notice. And then a week later, he started a week later, he started the 5-day journey here to Brisbane. So he drove down here. It was 3,500 kilometres, 5-day drive down here to Queensland from Darwin. And, because we didn't have any money or anything like that, all of his wages that week went into getting petrol put in the car to get him down here with his brother. And they were sleeping on the side of the road in the car every night, because they didn't have any money for accommodation or anything like that. And after that happened, and he had relocated here 3 months later, we were actually settled here in Queensland with some more family and some friends. But that wasn't the end of our worries. When we got here to Brisbane, I thought, oh my God, everything's going to be a fresh start. And I'm so happy here. And it was cool because here in Brisbane I actually had time to make friends. I actually had time to make friends. There were a lot of Kiwis and Māoris living around in Brisbane, and a lot of social groups getting together and going, having parenting groups and stuff like that with their kids, and having barbecues and things like that, and a lot of friendly people here. And so, we eventually got back on our feet, and about a year later, we were actually in our own place, and, we had to start from absolute scratch again. So when we moved into our house, we pretty much had the bare basics, so we had like a $8 jug, and the $8, everything was like cheap, like 4 knives, 4 forks, 4 plates, like we had the bare necessities. We didn't even have proper beds. We were on mattresses on the floor. We had just got us, a washing machine and a dryer and stuff like that. And man, thinking back to it now, when I look at my house and I look at what's in it now, I think, oh my God, it's amazing how far you can come. Once we were in our own place, that was it. I was on the job hunt. I wanted to go back to work. I wanted to support my family. So I went to go and look for work at bakeries, cafes, a lot of, bread factories and stuff like that. And I applied at a lot of agencies, and I hit a brick wall because nobody wanted to see my New Zealand qualifications. Every single time that I would go in for an interview, if I made it through to the interview process, I would hand over my qualifications, and they would say, oh, where's your Australian qualifications? And I said, oh, I'm from New Zealand, blah, blah, blah. These are my qualifications. And they said, oh, nah, sorry. They wanted the Australian equivalents. So, and another problem that I had as well was I would get through to nearly getting the job, and then, an agency or the employers didn't want to ring internationally back to New Zealand to my old employers to get my references, and I had a written reference as well, but that wasn't enough. So what I did was I ended up trying to save some dollars to upskill myself, and I tapped into some free courses and certificates wherever and whenever they were available and I could. And I did this for 8 months straight. I was doing certificates, I was getting new qualifications, and I was trying to find a job. All right, and I had no luck. I applied for hundreds and hundreds of jobs, and that was really, really depressing for me. 8 months straight of trying to find a job, and you just keep hitting a brick wall every time. So because I didn't have a job, I had to create my own. So after thinking a lot about it and seeing quite a shortage here in the market, here in Brisbane for, Kiwi, bakery goods and hangis and stuff like that, especially here on the north side of Brisbane, there's really not much at all up here. After a lot of disappointments as well, I actually decided to set up my own catering business. It was a lot of saving, and it was a lot of red tape and stuff like that to have to go through, like, doing my food licensing and coming up with a food safety plan, and it was just crazy. But I ended up opening for my first day of business in early 2014, and I catered to local cafes and bakeries in the area that outsourced their work during the week, and on the weekends to the general public. So during the week, you get cafes and they've only got a small kitchen and they can only do so much with their current capacity. I would, take that workload off them and I would make their quiches or their scones or, their pies or sausage rolls or whatever it is that they need made or their muffins or whatever twice a week. So I do all of that stuff. And on the weekends, I would often do hangi runs. So I would take, a whole heap of hangis and stuff like that. I would do a run through to Toowoomba, Logan, Ipswich, and I would do it all on the same day. I'd even sometimes go down to the Gold Coast to do a run, and that was actually quite popular. A lot of people up in those areas, they wanted, fresh hot hangi on the weekend because they were getting on the drinks or going out or whatever and didn't want to cook and they wanted a real feed. And it was good. It was hard work. I finally had some extra money after paying the bills, but I was still time poor. And I had the extra workload and stress of having to do all my invoicing, my paperwork, my books and taxes for running my day-to-day business. So that was a whole new workload that got put on top of me, on top of having to, look after things at home while my husband was at work. But at the end of the day, even though I was running my catering business, I still wasn't happy and I was still away from my family even more than what I was, when I was working at my old 9-to-5 bakery job. So, I thought to myself, oh, cool, I'm going to have my own catering business. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to have more money. I'm going to be able to spend time with my family. But in all reality, I had just created my own job. So even though I wasn't working for a boss and I was my own boss, it was still a job. I was still having to work all these hours and pay these taxes, and I was just like, oh my God. And even on the weekends, because we were doing runs and stuff, I still wouldn't even get time with my kids because I had to go and do a run down here or a run over there, with a whole bunch of food to go and give out to my customers. And, it would just take time away from my family even more. So here's how I found the online world and, how I started to learn all about online businesses, automation, and really learning about how to sell products and services and stuff like that online. So one afternoon, it was around about lunchtime, I think, I was at home here, and I only had half a day inside the catering kitchen, okay, that I was working out of, and everything in the house was done. My daughter was asleep, my son was at school, and Joseph, my husband, was an hour away in Kilcoy at work, and I was bored, okay. I usually read books, but I didn't have any books to read. I had read them all. I don't usually watch TV or anything like that, so I didn't want to watch TV. And I thought to myself, shit, I really need to find, another hobby, to be able to do when I do get a bit of spare time and my family is not around me. So I jumped on the computer and I typed into Uncle Google how to make money online Brisbane. That was what I typed into Google. And as I'm scrolling through, I'm just seeing all of these things, and I'm going scam, 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 pyramid scheme. My mind was very, very closed off back then. I had a very, very 9-to-5 mindset back then. And I scrolled down to the bottom of the first page, and there was a video, a YouTube video, for the first opportunity that I ever got into. And I watched the video, and it looked like the guy was an Australian guy. He seemed like a nice person. I clicked on the link below his video on YouTube and I found him on Facebook, asked him 1,000 bloody questions, ran it through my accountant, ran it through my lawyers in town, and they said it was fine. And I got stuck in. It was really painful and hard to be able to set that up, but I had to get in and learn. I had to go through that pain because what I was thinking of doing was taking my catering business more online. I wanted to be able to set up a website where I could have all of my products and stuff like that on it, so then that way my customers could go online, order their products in the quantities that they wanted, pay for it. I would get the funds out into my business account and I would know exactly what they wanted to order instead of having to manually invoice every single person and accept their funds into my business account. And having to do that was just like, was hoha. So that was what I really wanted to do, when I was looking at, taking my business online. Little did I know when I was setting up that 6 weeks later, I would surpass the owner of that company in earnings. and become the top income earner worldwide in that company in that short 6 weeks. I was even able to take my family, me and my husband, on a week holiday to Bali. And that was just so awesome being able to have a first holiday away. We never ever had a holiday anywhere. And that was, that all just came out of my first opportunity. So I was like thinking to myself back then, man, you know what? There's some really good money here online. And it didn't matter, that I, didn't go to university or anything like that, and that I came from a hospitality background of working in the kitchen all my life. None of that mattered. None of that mattered. All those qualifications that I got, back then, when I look at them now, I just look at them like they're a piece of paper with my name on it. None of them ever helped me to get to where I am today. None of them ever taught me about the online world. And I pretty much realize now that I wasted 4 years, 5 years of doing an apprenticeship and a whole heap of money trying to upskill all my qualifications for absolutely nothing. So, I pretty much did it for nothing. So, I thought to myself, wow, there really is some good money to be made online. I wonder if I can turn this into a full-time thing. So, what I did was I started to diversify my income. So when I started online with my first business, as I said to you guys earlier, I had no computer skills. And after getting in and really getting in, the nitty gritty and learning that business inside and out, I mastered it, I put it on autopilot, and then I wanted to learn another one. I wanted to make another branch of income. So 7 months after starting my online journey, I was actually able to retire my husband for life. So my husband has been retired for the last 2+ years. And 12 months after starting my online journey, I was able to close up my catering business for good because I didn't need it anymore. I was making more than enough money every single week. I was actually making more than what our two incomes previously were from my husband working at the meatworks and me running my own catering business. I was making more online than what I was making, than what we were both making, working a 9-to-5 job. It's now 2+5 years later, and I've got multiple online businesses and opportunities that all pay me a daily and a monthly and a weekly residual income, and I do cryptocurrency as well. So I've also over time learned how to build all my own trainings, products, and platforms as well, which has been really, really awesome for me because I've been able to come up with my own stuff to be able to teach people how they can become their own bosses as well. So what my life is like now, me and my husband, we no longer have to wake up to an alarm clock every day telling us that we have to go to work, and we get to be with our kids 24/7. I really love that. I'm not having to ring into work anymore saying, oh, can I get the day off because Colorado's sick? I'm not having to take my husband's not having to take moldy days off anymore on the days he doesn't want to go into work, so he pulls the sickie and goes and gets a doctor's certificate. No more having to do that. We don't stress anymore. We don't stress about anything. We don't have to stress about bills anymore or the power getting cut off because the bills are paid up 3 months in advance now. So, I always keep all of our rent ahead, our insurances ahead, most of our power, our phone bills, etc. ahead. And, it's just really, really cool. I can sit back every day. I'm not having to, worry about where the next loaf of bread's going to come from or the next bottle of milk. I'm not having to lie in bed at night stressed and worrying about how I'm going to pay for this, that, and the other, and how my kids are going to eat. And we really have the freedom now to do what we like, when we like, and nobody really controls our time. The only person that we have to answer to is a tax man, okay? And we don't have to clock in and clock out like we used to for a boss at a job. And I really genuinely love what I do now, and I'm happy because I get to teach people, my people, and I get to train them so that, they can become their own bosses too. And that's the beauty of online. It doesn't matter what your qualifications are. It doesn't matter, what your background is. It doesn't matter if you finish school or not. It doesn't matter if you have computer skills or not. Anybody can do anything online as long as they're willing to get in there with an open mind and learn everything inside and out. If you have that willingness to get in there and learn, and you have a hunger that you want something better for your life, and you really get in there and you be consistent and give it 100% every day, you will be nothing but successful. And that, my friends, is a bloody true story. So the perks of being my own boss. Some of the cool things that I really enjoy about being my own boss is not only that, I get to interact with a lot of people, but I get to travel a lot. So I get to travel interstate quite a bit. I get to travel internationally quite a bit. And we get to go to big business conferences, hold presentations and meetings and trainings and stuff like that. And I just really enjoy it. I really enjoy being able to get out of the four walls every day. When I was working and running my catering business, I was always stuck in the four walls. I never ever, got to go outside and work. I never, I was just stuck in the four walls, man. Like, I was restricted as. Whereas now, if I wake up, in the morning, I do a couple hours work on the computer and stuff, I can then look over at my husband and go, babe, we should go out somewhere nice for lunch, or babe, we should go to the beach, or babe, we should go up to Glasshouse Mountains, or we should go for a lazy drive down to the Sunshine Coast. We have the power to be able to do that now. We have not only that financial freedom, but that time freedom as well. And I absolutely love that. I love being able to just get out and, visit new places, explore. I'm a real adrenaline junkie, so I like to get out and do, some crazy stuff. And I just genuinely enjoy and love what I do. And I'm really passionate about what I do. What I love the most about what I do now is the people. I get to meet lots of different people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different religions, different skin colors and stuff like that. Different everything. I get to go and help them. I get to go and train them. Um, it's just so awesome online. You're not restricted like you are in a 9 to 5 job. And I just genuinely love people. I love people, that are all about, helping themselves to be able to better the lives of themselves and their family. I love surrounding myself with people who have got the same goals. They're driven and they have the same sort of mindset that I do. And I've just been able to do some fantastic things, since I've been online. Oh man, I love people. I absolutely love people. And you'll actually notice, when you are surrounding yourself with people with a positive mindset, with a positive attitude, that, you're going to go a long way regardless of what you do, because, no matter what, those people are right behind you. They're pushing you. They're striving for you to, be better every day, and they're always giving you challenges and curveballs all the time so that you always know that you got to switch it up. And I absolutely love, the people. One of my biggest pieces of advice to anybody, regardless of, your guys' income level, regardless of, where you guys live or what you guys do, is when you can, guys, give back. It's one of the things that I have always loved to do. Um, Before we became homeless, I can't really say that I used to do a lot of charity work. I would help out, where needed, if my family or my whānau needed me, but when I became homeless and I went through that situation, I really understood how important it is to give back and just, pay it forward, you know, give an act of kindness to somebody that's less fortunate than us. When I can, I try and go out there and do volunteer work behind the scenes. A lot of people, of my following don't actually see this. Every Wednesday morning, tomorrow is actually a Wednesday morning, we go down to my son's school, my son and daughter's school, and we volunteer and we feed the kids for breakfast club. That's a really, really humbling feeling to be able to just go in there and, help them, to have some breakfast, a piece of toast or a bowl of cereal or Milo, some fresh fruit maybe. I'm not there to judge those kids. I don't know what's going on in their life. I don't know, if they're not getting food at home. I don't know if, maybe their parents aren't looking after them properly. I don't even know maybe if, those children have got a long walk to school and they have breakfast before they leave. But then when they get to school, they're hungry again because they had to walk a long way. But regardless, we're there to feed them every Wednesday. I also really love, helping by giving blood. It's actually not good for my heart. My heart doesn't like it, but I've got a rare blood type. So I always try and donate when I can, even though it might put my old ticker, through a little bit of stress and I feel a bit faint and my blood pressure drops after they take the cannula out of my arm. Because I've got a rare blood type, I just know that it's going to help someone somewhere, potentially help to save their life. Because I know if anything ever happened to me, I would be so grateful, if there was blood there sitting in the blood bank that was the same blood type as mine so that I could survive, and that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give to anybody out there is try and give back. No matter how rich I am, no matter, what I'm doing or how chaotic my life is, I will always try to give back to the people when I can. I love people, you know, regardless, people, it's not money, it's people that make the world go around. Without people, I wouldn't be here where I am today. So, looking forward to the future. I honestly have no idea what the future holds or where I'm going to be in 5 years from now, but I know for sure that every day I'm 200% gunning for my goals and dreams every single day. And that's because I know that working smarter instead of working harder is the best way to be. I love having 100% peace of mind. And knowing that if anything was to ever happen to me tomorrow, if I was ever seriously injured or even killed, that my husband and my children would be set up for life, and that they wouldn't have to return to work or stress over my funeral arrangements and expenses, which is what anybody should really want for their family if they were ever gone or something happened to them. A lot of people do not have a backup plan, and when the shit hits the fan, you really got to ask yourself, what have I got in place that's going to help me and my family? My mum, she had insurance when she passed away. Lasted 4 years. My dad didn't really, go out and drink or anything like that and waste it all. Most of that money went to me and my brother. But you know what? That money only lasted 4.5 years, and when it was gone, that was it, man. We were back on struggle street, and my husband and my children, they will never ever have to worry about that. My husband will never have to return to work. He's going to be able to grieve, and he's going to be able to, be here for my babies 24/7 without having to ever worry about another bill or anything like that again. And that is huge peace of mind for me. So just in closing, I just really want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this and listen into my video today about my story and, where I came from, to being where I am today. I thank you guys so much for that. Time is non-refundable, and that's why I thank you guys so much for taking the time out to listen and watch today or tonight. Time is so valuable, and a lot of people don't see that. Time is more precious than gold, than diamonds, than money. You can always get money, you can always get that flash car, you can always get gold or diamonds or riches, but at the end of the day, time is the only thing that you can't get back once you've spent it. Time is non-refundable. And so I'm just going to leave you guys with one of my favorite quotes. And that quote goes a little something like this: if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of this video. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day or a great night wherever out there in the world, man. God bless. Be safe in anything that you guys are doing. And thank you all for following my journey and listening in, about how, I went from being broke as a joke to being successful online. Have a good day or a good night. Bye, guys.